Hello, everyone. This is Lala, and today I'm here to talk about the breakdown of the third era of Big Brother, which I like to call the modern era, which went from Big Brother 16 to Big Brother 22. And I'll talk about the developments or the lack thereof, which is definitely important when it comes to this era. But honestly, before I even get into the modern era, I have to address and discuss Big Brother 15, since it adds a lot of context pertaining why this era became what it became. It seemed like that season was supposed to be a reboot for the show, with the eviction stage being new, jury buybacks being a thing, a longer season, a larger cast, and it being a newbie season right after two mixed seasons. But the overt racism in the season was a PR disaster and nightmare. So not only did they change the casting for the show, but the theme and marketing of the show as well. And they attempted to create the antithesis of Big Brother 15, which you will see by what they decided to push, not only just within the next season, but essentially every season afterwards. First big change that we got with Big Brother 16 is that there are now HD cameras, which makes the filmography different than the prior seasons. Eviction flashbacks were removed, the nomination wheel was removed, the intros were filmed differently, and it's not changed once that person becomes evicted where it shows their eviction walk. That doesn't happen anymore. Little changes like that definitely made a difference. And it is also clear that they casted quote unquote safer people. And I'm putting it in quotes because they thought that they're casting safer people, but they really weren't. But what they were is that they were easier to edit into shallow archetypes that can give off and execute this quote unquote friendlier G rated image that they were going for. Despite that, a lot remained the same from Big Brother 15 as well. The 16-player cast, which becomes normalized here, the very long season, the jury buyback, gameplay twists that last longer than a few weeks, like that was the case in the prior era, and America's influence. Of course, the main twist of the season was Battle of the Block, where two HOHs nominated for house guests. Sorry, there are two HOHs, four house guests nominated, and a set of nominees saving themselves, dethroning the HOH that nominated them. And there is a chance that the HOH could be HOH in the beginning of the week and evicted in the second week, evicted in that same week, which we saw with Nicole on week 7. This twist essentially lasted for 8 weeks in the game, which was a long one. Supposedly, this was supposed to be a twist that encouraged more competition and for people from opposite sides of a house to be HOHs together, but it just incentivized large alliances and many pawns to be nominated with a bigger increase in backdoors. There's also the Team America element, which is a throwback element to the prior era with America's vote and stuff like that. So that was really the final main twist of the season. But what I do notice is that later on in this era, you'll see that they threw a lot of twists in there that are just randomly inputted. But this season had a set twist or two sets of twists that remained through a lot of the season, and there were a lot of twists that were thrown in and out. So I guess that's kind of just a leftover from the prior era. Now it is time to move on to the second season of this era, which is Big Brother 17. Because the Battle of the Block was quote unquote so popular in the prior season, they thought that it was a good idea to bring it back for Big Brother 17. But thankfully, they cut the time by almost half, since it ended after 5 weeks compared to the 8 weeks in the prior season. The main twist of the season was the Big Brother Takeover, where outsiders would infiltrate the house for a week to throw in a twist. And we saw this with adding to the Amazing Race alumni for the first week and canceling 3 votes at the second eviction. But it faltered after 3 weeks, and I think for the third week, it was just them partying in the shower or whatever. It was just very lame. Anyways, the season did not live up to its potential regarding the twists, though the fans liked the fact that the twist flopped, but obviously the producers and the network clearly didn't. But it did set the template regarding what would be common in this era, which are a bunch of twists being thrown in randomly to see what sticks. So clearly that's what the Big Brother takeover was supposed to be, but it just didn't get there. I guess they didn't really know how to infiltrate adding in random twists like that this season, though they will figure out how to do it in future seasons. And it's also the first season with a 17-player cast, and a lot of the components over the last two seasons kind of remained here, regarding the jury buyback, the 16-player cast, and a few other things that I just don't remember right now. Also, this season, as well as last season at Big Brother 15, they had their double eviction right as jury started, in addition to having another double eviction in the mid jury, which usually happened after the jury buyback. So it became kind of formulaic in that regard. This is also the first season, if I remember correctly, where CBS outright stated that they were disappointed in it. Hence what the next season became, and we all know that the person who complained publicly was Les Moonves. Now it is time to talk about the third season of the era, which is Big Brother 18. And it is weird that they did a mixed season here, as it's only been 4 years since the last returnee season, but it's clear that they wanted to prop up the underdogs from their most recent seasons, hence the returnees. Though I already kind of delved into this into another video, so if anything, just check that out above. They even brought in siblings of alumni that CBS likes to take things off in the returnees' favor, as we all know that they brought in Polly, who is Cody's brother, and Tiffany, who is Vanessa's sister. And the fact that they chose those two siblings shows how much they like those two. And by they, I mean CBS. So, in my opinion, this is really the season that really started the trend of throwing every twist at the wall to see what stuck instead of one season defying twist, essentially. So, we got the return of the day 1/day 2 eviction, which makes a few appearances in this era. The return of teams for the first few weeks of the season. The roadkill competition, which is essentially the way or a way for someone to secretly nominate a third nominee. So again, I think this is the second season where there was 3 nominees. So they kind of continue that from Big Brother 15. Yeah, it's kind of the MVP twist, but it was just done through a competition instead of America's vote. There was the round trip ticket, which was introduced mid-season, where if you had a ticket that said round trip and you can come back and you're evicted within the next 5 eviction rounds, you come back. Obviously, that was an insurance policy, so they could hope that they wouldn't have to do a jury buyback. But because the round trip ticket failed, we of course had the pre-jury buyback, but also, especially the jury buyback twist. And this is the first season that I believe has 2 of them regarding the pre-jury and the jury buybacks, and I think it's the only season that has that as well. And it also has the care packages, where essentially America voted for one house guest to get a care package, which comes in the form of some sort of twist or whatever. And once you got one, you couldn't get one again. So there was an M-Not pass that Natalie got in week 6. James got the care package to cancel 2 votes, which we saw on the Zakia vote in week 7. Nicole got the super safety immunity package, which made her safe for the week, which we saw during the poly boot. Michelle won the 4th care package, which made her the co-HOH during Natalie's HOH, which resulted in Victor getting booted. And Corey got the last care package, which was essentially him having to give $5,000 to another house guest. It is a lot, and unfortunately, we would get a lot more seasons like this from this point onwards. Now we are smack dab in the middle of the era, with the 4th season of the era being Big Brother 19. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to have a lot to say about Big Brother 19 from an evolution point of view, and I think it's because of how static and formulaic Big Brother became at this point in time during its history, since it's been on for a decade and a half up to this point. This season continued the trend of the day 1 to 2 boots that they clearly got from last season as well, and also continued the mixed seasons theme, but it was akin to Big Brother 11, as it was just one person, i.e. Paul, returning. Here, kind of like how it's just one person, Jesse, returning on that season. The overall theme of the season is temptations, and that's how the twists of the season came to be. But when you look at the twists, there is plentiful, unlike the past two eras, and they're kind of random as hell. But the only really relevant one is the halting hex. But I am going to go over them briefly. So, the Den of Temptation was the first set of twists that came in. And essentially, America voted for a house guest to send it to the depth of temptation to get a game-changing offer. So Paul got the pendant of protection, which was essentially using this for immunity for the first three evictions. Ring of replacements was another one where you can take someone out of the veto draw, which Christmas won, and she eventually used it on Cody during the week that Jessica was booted. And the final twist within the Den of Temptation is the halting hex, where one person can stop any of the next four evictions. And this obviously was won by Jessica, and she used it during the week that she and Cody were nominated. We also had the temptation competition that was opened up after Jessica using the halting hex. Honestly, they're going to find some way to incorporate it anyways. So for weeks 5, 6, and 7, the person who wins this ends up being immune for the week, and the person who gets last ends up being the third nominee. And this happening during the most stagnant period of the season, with Jessica, Cody, and Elena getting booted here, as well as week 5 really just didn't make it interesting, and the house gamed it. And then we have the Tree of Temptation in weeks 8, 9, and 10. So that was the Mark, Matt, and Jason boot weeks, where the Tree of Temptation was activated and it gave them the opportunity to gain more twists. And the only one that was used was Save a Friend in week 8, where Mark used it and saved it. Sorry. Mark got it and used it on Paul in hopes that it would get him good graces, but it didn't really do anything. What I will say about this cast is it had the most drama in the era, almost akin to the prior era, which is just very ratchet and MTV-like. But obviously, CBS did not like that look either, so it really didn't help the season's legacy at all. So we are on to the 5th season of the era, which is Big Brother 20. And I honestly don't think I'm going to have a lot to say about this season. And one of the reasons why is because it's the first all newbie season since Big Brother 17. And due to that, there's a lot less messiness when it comes to production's clear intent with the season and all that. So we did have the premiere competitions, which would be a more regular thing in future seasons. Especially actually no, yeah. From this point onwards, there's always like several competitions in the premiere. So I guess that is the main evolution that the season brought to the show. And then there's the House Division twist that they got from Big Brother Canada 6, which aired a few months ago, or a few months before this, and honestly, we just didn't give enough about it, so I'm just going to move on. So the overall theme of this season was apps and hacks. So essentially, technology was the main theme of this season, but not in the way that it is in Big Brother 26, obviously, because I don't think AI was really a thing during 2018. So, like the Den of Temptation last season, viewers went to vote for the house guests that they wanted to grant a certain prize with the BB App Store. And that's essentially what happened here, as there are also two options regarding power apps, which are the good apps that people got if they were the most voted, and crap apps. And that is what people got if they got the least votes in general, and they would be punished. So, just from my recollection, Sam got the power up in the first week where she had the power to. I don't remember what her power is, but she had a huge power that could change an eviction, and that kind of helped her stay. Tyler got power in the second week. I don't remember what it is. I think it's some sort of immunity or what have you. I don't know. And Bailey also got the third and final power up, which was essentially a way to hack the nominations of any HOH that she wanted to. So after the first 6 weeks of the season, we also had the hacker competition, which was introduced in the first 2 weeks of the jury portion of the season, where someone could anonymously win a competition where they can take off a nominee and actually no, I don't think they can take off a nominee. Sorry. The person who won this gains the Yeah, I was right. They can anonymously replace one of the two nominees selected by the House guest, and they can also nullify an elimination vote. We saw this essentially not come into play in the first week that this was introduced on with Haley, with kind of misusing it on Angela's HH, but we did see this used effectively on when Casey won it in the following week during Haley's HOH, where essentially kind of flipped the entire second half of the game, where without the twist, Casey or Angela goes home, and the rest of the season is very different from that. But in general, it is a lot simpler compared to some of the other seasons, but it continues the trend of throwing twists in randomly to see what sticks. The era is starting to wind down with the sixth and penultimate season of the era, which is Big Brother 21, which is also the final newbie season in the era. And it's also the final newbie season that has an overwhelmingly white cast. And obviously, I guess I'll address it now, but the season is kind of very similar to Big Brother 15 in the sense that there was a lot of racism and ugly behavior in the season that gave CBS and Big Brother overall a very bad look. And I do think it's due to a lot of the actions that happened on this season. It's where their diversity mandate started to become slowly implemented on the show. And we really haven't had a season like Big Brother 21 ever again. So it does have the final day 1/day 2 boot that has appeared throughout this era and in Big Brother 14 as well. But they did it differently, where camp director has one person essentially being elected to rule the house and to nominate four people, and the four people nominated had to play in the Hit the World competition where last place was sent home. So the season also continued the trend of random twists kind of just being thrown in there, but it's done differently here, where for the first 3 weeks of the season there was no activity competition where five house guests competed in it, and the winner would be awarded in private and given a secret power. And the secret powers were this. One of them was the nightmare power, where essentially the person who wins this can nullify the nominations and wake everyone up in the middle of the night to redo the nominations that the HOH made, but it never got used in the season. There's chaos power, where essentially they can force the HOH and the two nominees to redraw the players, and this lasts until the final six. This is essentially the same twist that was used in Big Brother 19. And then there was the panic power, where essentially the winner may anonymously grant that week's PV winner the Diamond Power of Veto, and the Diamond Power of Veto is obviously a twist that debuted from the last era. So there was a pre-jury twist. Sorry, a pre-journey. What am I on? A pre-jury returnee competition, but it's done differently here. And the main theme of the season is camp. And they decided to do a twist of Camp Comeback, where the first 3 to 4 evictees essentially had to live in the house until the pre-jury buyback competition, which was done live. And it caused for a lot of the icky behavior to kind of just continue here. There was the America's Field Trip twist, which was very similar to the Temptation competition in BB19, and then America's Prankster, and I honestly just don't really care to get involved in it. Clearly, the season just doesn't really stand out in a positive way, and the cast was a lot less likable, and it's clear that things were coming to an end. But we weren't there yet. And now we are ending the era with the final season and the seventh season, which is Big Brother 22. Obviously, the big thing with this season is the fact that it's an all-star season, which they haven't done since 2006, which was 14 years ago. As we all know, this was only an all-star season because COVID-19 wreaked havoc on the world, and returnees was a quicker way to handle the issue in casting, and they didn't have to go through the casting process of meeting thousands and thousands and thousands of people who could have had COVID. So that's essentially the only reason why this is an all-star season. So when it comes to the twists, there was a safety suite competition where for the first 3 weeks, people can compete for safety, and whomever wins it can also save someone else. And obviously this changed the first week with Kaysar winning it and then using it on Janelle, causing Cody to change his nominees. There was the baby basement in week 5 where people were able to compete and win different powers, with David winning the Disruptor, which is the secretly safe nominee and forced the HOH to nominate a replacement. Danny Briones winning the replay, which allows the outgoing HOH to play the following HOH after the reign. And then there's the blocker, where Christmas Abbott won this, and she could have blocked either herself or someone else from being nominated post veto. So essentially, it's the same thing that's happened since BB19 or BB18, with random twists kind of just being thrown in different intervals of the season. Then there was the twist of the triple eviction, but they did it differently than Big Brother Canada, where here there were 3 different HOH rounds and 3 people going home in each overall, but one of them going home in each round, compared to Big Brother Canada, where there's 2 HOH rounds. The first one has 1 person going home, and the second HOH has 2 people going home at the same time. That didn't really happen here. Essentially, there are less twists in the season compared to the others, though it also could have just been due to the brain dynamics. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion about race and ethnicity, and you can definitely tell that they made more of an effort to cast more people from racial minorities or ethnic minorities on the season, which would lead to the big change that would culminate into the next era that we are currently in. So, I'm going to talk about the notable people in this era, and obviously, the best way to do this is to look at who ended up returning. So, from Big Brother 16, we know that Cody and Nicole returned, and I guess Frankie, if you include Reindeer Games. Devon and James returned there from 17. Paul is the only BB18 returnee pertaining to newbies. Christmas, and I guess Josh, if you include Reindeer Games, returned, so they became notable. Tyler and Bailey are the only ones who returned from their season, and then Nicole and David, I guess, as well. So those are the more notable people. But even with the one-timers, you can definitely see some notable people. So, like, Derek, Vanessa, I guess Jessica and Cody because they were popular and then they went on the Amazing Race. And I think that's really it. But this is also the era where a lot of people started doing other shows and they were able to continue their reality TV careers, which wasn't the case for a lot of, essentially, for the others in the prior 2 eras to consistently have reality TV bookings. And this obviously came into play due to the challenge, where we had people like Natalie, Victor, Jose, Devon, Polly, the Nolan twins, Josh, Bailey, Swaggy, Fessel, Casey, and Amber really make marks on the challenge seasons, and a lot of them continued on there for years, which gave more visibility to the show as well. So the main thing that stood out to me with this season, sorry, not this season, this era is actually 2 things stood out to me. One is the consistent theme of buybacks, whether they were pre-jury, jury, or both. They essentially happened every single season of this era, with the exception of All Stars, and that was only due to COVID. And the other consistency regarding this season is the twist being thrown in randomly and not being one consistent twist, where in the first era, they were foundational twists that eventually ended up becoming normalized throughout the show in seasons afterwards, while the second era had generally one twist that lasted through either half of the season or through a decent amount of the season, and that was really it. Obviously, without those two main changes, we also had to change in how the show presented itself, as it became much more of a summer camp theme, or at least that's how it was edited and promoted, and that definitely showed their intentions with the era. But they obviously had the huge issue regarding diversity, which is something that they handled in the next and current era that we are in. So that is it for this video, and I thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with more content soon. Bye!